with that. So anyway, but Maurice, have I left anything out, or what's your reaction to what I had to say?
I'm all in with what you said. First of all, I got my pink on. I did my research. They said Sophie Cunningham's favorite color is pink. I said, dang it, I gotta find something. Sophie went rogue. You let us know you are back on this side of the street because we were worried for a second. But it's good to know we got Sophie Cunningham back. Listen, Whitlock, I think you hit the nail on the head. This thing is over. This thing is done.
There's a running theory that nobody involved wants to be seen as the villain in this situation. Caitlin Clark reportedly doesn't want to upset her Midwest and Iowa fan base by openly saying she needs to leave the organization, while Stephanie White and the Fever's front office don't want to be publicly blamed for failing to build a functional team around her. The argument is that both sides would rather Clark be the one to formally request a trade so the front office can claim they did everything possible to keep her.
Listen, Whitlock, I think you hit the nail on the head. This thing is over. This thing is done. The reaction, and I'm sure Charles could speak to this being a longtime coach, when a player makes a game winner, yet alone a first professional game winner of their entire career, that's not the way you look. That's not the way you celebrate. Caitlin Clark looks like she was in a funeral in that locker room. Caitlin Clark looked like a hostage in that post-game presser. She's got to find a way to get out of there. This thing is over.
Discussion opened with agreement across the panel on that framing. One commentator noted doing research on player preferences, humorously mentioning wearing pink after learning it was Sophie Cunningham's favorite color, while expressing relief that Cunningham appeared to be speaking more openly again. The broader argument was that this situation appears to be reaching a breaking point.
She's got to find a way to get out of there. This thing is over. Caitlin Clark was off to a blazing hot start versus Washington, and Stephanie White wanted no parts of it. The second that girl picked up a foul, it was like, thank you. Now I can do what I've been wanting to do, which is to sit you down. And Jason, they checked her out 30 seconds into the second quarter, and a few minutes later, Caitlin Clark tried to check back in the game, and Stephanie White told her, no, go sit down, and Caitlin Clark was.
Drawing on coaching experience, panelists pointed out that a player's reaction after hitting a first professional game-winning shot should look celebratory, not somber. Yet Clark's demeanor in the locker room and post-game press conference looked closer to distress than joy. The read from the panel is that she needs to find a way out of the current situation. They pointed to an earlier moment in a game against Washington, where Clark had a strong start before picking up a foul, after which Coach White quickly benched her.
Clark was absolutely pissed about it, and Sophie Cunningham was telling her, hey, it's okay. You could see that interaction on the bench as well. But this thing is done, man, and I think that at this point, it is a PR battle. Caitlin doesn't want to look like the bad person. The Indiana Fever want her to force a trade so they could say, hey, there was nothing we could do. We did everything we can to keep her. She forced us to do this. It's a PR battle, but Caitlin has to find a way to get out of there.
When Clark attempted to check back into the game shortly after, White reportedly told her to stay seated, visibly frustrating Clark, with Cunningham seen trying to calm her down on the bench. The panel described this as no longer just an on-court issue, but a public relations battle, with each side trying to avoid appearing at fault publicly, while ultimately arguing Clark needs to move on from the situation regardless of the PR optics. One commentator directly compared footage of Clark's reaction after a big game-winning shot back in college to her reaction after a similar situation recently, describing the contrast in body language and energy as stark, arguing it barely looked like the same person, and reinforcing that she needs to get out of the current environment.
It's a PR battle, but Caitlin has to find a way to get out of there. Seeing her, I did a comparison. She made a bunch of big shots at Iowa, obviously. I did a comparison of her in the locker room and at the press conference after she hit that huge game winner versus Indiana while she was in college compared to this. It doesn't even look like the same human being, guys. It's nasty. It's bad. She has to get away from there. I don't care if you have to take a PR hit. At this point, the Indiana Fever are doing more than enough to damage your brand at this point.
Another panelist, speaking from a coaching background, agreed that the visible tension is hard to ignore. Reviewing slowed-down footage from the Washington game, he described Cunningham congratulating teammates, but but appearing to intentionally avoid eye contact with Coach White, offering only a brief, distant handshake before reaching a teammate at the end of the bench who reacted with genuine excitement. He interpreted the muted reaction from the coaching staff as reflecting discomfort that Clark, rather than another player, ended up taking that final shot.
To damage your brand at this point, you need to get away from them.
Charles, your thoughts?
Well, when you get to the point where they're not even trying to hide it, it's a real problem. And you watch the body language. You know, that locker room scene with Caitlin Clark, I haven't worked for any coaches that wouldn't have looked at her and said, "Hey, is there a problem?" I mean, there's something going on here, you know. When she walked off the court against Washington.
Based on the play design and personnel positioning, he argued it was clear the final play was originally drawn up for Kelsey Mitchell to attack the basket, not for a long-range shot from Clark. The conversation then shifted to the Fever's public response pattern, noting that reporting from the previous night indicated the organization asked Cunningham to delete a since-removed social media post, while Lexi Hull had already confirmed in a radio interview that the final play wasn't originally designed to end with Clark's shot, but was intended for Mitchell.
And I was talking to Jason yesterday, and he had mentioned it already, but I mean, I slowed it down. Okay, Sophie Cunningham is, you know, she's patting her on the back. But when she gets to Stephanie White, she intentionally avoids looking at her and just kind of casually sticks her hand out there, and she does the same with a couple of coaches. And she gets all the way to the end of the bench before you see one of her teammates is ready to just pick her up and jump for joy. It was almost as if
Panelists found it notable that the organization tends to respond quickly to certain public criticism, such as previous comments defending a roster decision, or Coach White's own pregame remarks pushing back on fans criticizing the team's style of play as unexciting, where she said she wasn't focused on entertaining people, only on winning, while remaining conspicuously silent on other more damaging narratives specifically involving Clark, including critical commentary from certain media figures. Asked why that silence continues around Clark specifically, one panelist suggested it may reflect a broader dynamic where certain commentary aligned with the organization's messaging isn't being pushed back on because it currently serves their interests, potentially reinforcing a narrative that frames Clark as the source of friction.
For joy. It was almost as if that they said, "Boy, anybody but you. Anybody but you. We don't want you making this shot. Anybody but you." And I didn't need Sophie Cunningham to tell me who that last play was drawn up for. I just looked at the set. I mean, you got Kelton Mitchell standing where she was standing. Well, it's obvious they're finna bring her to the ball. That's, you know, and it's obviously Caitlin's gonna set a back screen and then some kind of action over there. So yeah, that's not debatable.
He also acknowledged that even accepting Clark can be a demanding personality to manage, comparing it to coaching other high-difficulty, high-talent athletes throughout sports history. The value she brings still outweighs the difficulty involved in managing that dynamic. Another panelist, drawing on coaching experience, offered his own explanation for the final play.
Stop supporting Caitlin Clark? No, I do not. Caitlin Clark could not dribble a basketball today and retire, and her name will be etched in concrete as one of the greatest Caucasian athletes to ever walk this earth.
Maurice, thrill is gone or no?
I don't think it's completely, it's not gone. You know, I had to sleep on it. Part of me last night felt like, you know, she's a couple 3-point makes away from the.
He also pointed to what he described as a telling reaction after Clark's shot, noting that 3 teammates visibly moved toward her in a natural show of shared excitement, while Mitchell appeared to react more reservedly before quickly shifting focus elsewhere. He offered a personal anecdote from his own athletic background about how family and teammates can sometimes overestimate their own standing relative to a truly elite talent, suggesting something similar might be playing out with Mitchell, while clarifying he still views her as a talented, well-intentioned player rather than someone acting in bad faith.
Felt like, you know, she's a couple 3-point makes away from the excitement. I mean, if she hits a couple of these threes, I mean, the actual gameplay from her has been good. She just can't throw a rock in the ocean right now from the 3-point line. But wait a second, Jason, that was blasphemous. Don't ever mention Peyton Pritchard in the same breath as Caitlin Clark. Don't do that again, Jason. I like you a lot. Let's not do that ever again. Never mention Peyton Pritchard with Caitlin Clark. And it is like a dunk when
Another panelist agreed with that read, pointing to a separate moment after a missed shot by the opposing team, where teammates surrounded Clark in celebration, while Mitchell reacted more passively, before eventually joining in. He argued the underlying tension stems from a system that isn't suited to both players' strengths simultaneously, with the current offensive approach built more around isolation scoring opportunities for Mitchell, while Clark's game is more suited to pick-and-roll creation, transition offense, and playmaking for teammates rather than standalone shot creation.
again, never mention Peyton Pritchard with Caitlin Clark. And it is like a dunk when they make layups in the WNBA, because we watch them, a lot of them try to make layups and they make it look like long division. So it is pretty exciting when they do a layup and it actually goes in. But she's just not making the three-point shot right now for whatever reason. I do think she will start making it, and she better, because you are spot on. Listen, when you went to an NBA game and at Duke or whatever, and you saw Zion on a fast break, you thought he was going to break the.
He argued that last season's success without Clark, driven heavily by Mitchell's individual scoring, may have inadvertently created a stylistic conflict now that both players are on the floor together, with the coaching staff trying to accommodate both approaches rather than fully committing to one. His conclusion was that separating the two through a trade may ultimately benefit both, allowing Mitchell, alongside Aaliyah Boston, and any return package, to continue playing in a style suited to her strengths, while Clark moves to an environment built around her game specifically.
Whatever, and you saw Zion on a fast break, you thought he was going to break the backboard. You didn't want to see him just do a layup. The logo three is a staple in Caitlin Clark's game, and it is a reason that people want to come out and buy tickets. And for whatever reason, Stephanie White, Kelly Crosskopf, Amber Cox, and the Indiana Fever have not leaned into Caitlin Clark's strengths. They have not leaned into the exciting play. And a lot like Jason, I don't believe that under.
Closing the discussion, another panelist pushed back gently on the idea that Clark and Mitchell can't coexist, arguing that pairing two elite backcourt talents should be the goal rather than something to avoid, and that with the right structure, both players' skill sets, playmaking and scoring, should complement rather than conflict with each other. He argued the two should be positioned as one of the league's top backcourts for years to come, and that the real issue lies in organizational structure and coaching approach rather than the players themselves.
They have not leaned into the exciting play. And a lot like Jason, I don't believe that under Stephanie White. You know, we watched games during Caitlin Clark's rookie year in Dallas versus the Wings. He had 20-some points and 20 assists. We watched this girl get 20-plus assists in games. I don't believe that's going to be able to happen in the Stephanie White system, because all Stephanie White is looking to do is to not do the things that she does well. The pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston. You know, I was confused how Aaliyah Boston, you got $6 million.
Still, he acknowledged that if the current environment continues creating tension between the two, a trade allowing Clark to build around her own strengths elsewhere may ultimately be the more realistic outcome, closing with the overall sentiment that regardless of how the situation resolves, the current path doesn't appear to be heading toward a championship for the team this season. Caitlin Clark's 2026 season has been marked by an uneven return from injury, with her shooting numbers well below the standard she set as a rookie and during her college career.
How Aaliyah Boston, you got $6 million. You didn't score in the first half. And I'm like, what is going on? But the fact of the matter is, Aaliyah Boston is as affected as Caitlin Clark, because you've decided to take her away from the basket because you're so concerned with taking the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands and making Aaliyah Boston a hub, playing point center. All of this stuff, none of this stuff makes sense. And it's having even an effect on Aaliyah Boston as well. I don't think that, I believe that Caitlin is great. I believe she'll deliver some excitement.
After missing all but 13 games in 2025 due to a series of leg injuries, Clark entered this season aiming to build on her earlier success, but has instead dealt with recurring physical setbacks and inconsistent shooting form. Through much of the season, Clark's field goal and three-point percentages have trailed her career norms, at one point sitting at 38.3% from the field and 33.3% from three for the year overall, with individual stretches far worse.
On Aaliyah Boston as well. I don't think that I believe that Caitlin is great. I believe she'll deliver some exciting moments. Will it be to the level of her rookie season or anything we saw at Iowa? As long as Stephanie White is on the sideline, I don't believe so.
I believe as long as Caitlin Clark is in the Indiana Fever uniform, they're going to do everything in their power to systematically remove her fans. I think this goes back to the fans. See, the fans is playing a factor in their decisions with the operation of Caitlin Clark. See, the Indiana Fever and the WNBA.
A 5-game span in June saw her shoot just 28.9% from the field and 11.4% from three, numbers her coaching staff described as the lowest of any comparable stretch in her career. During that period, head coach Stephanie White repeatedly told reporters she wasn't concerned about Clark's shot, saying every attempt looks like it's going in to her, and that Clark continues to make winning plays even when her shot isn't falling.
Clark. See, the Indiana Fever and the WNBA do not want all of this attention. It's clear as day, because if they did, they'll just go ahead and let Caitlin Clark shoot her shot. To me, I believe that they're sick of the fans, they're sick of the Twitter trolls, they're sick of it all. That's why they are doing this to Caitlin Clark. It's no secret that Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly, all of these people hate the fans. We see it time and time again. The more we cover Caitlin Clark, how many negative stories come out regarding the fans than positive.
White has also spoken publicly about finding the right balance between having Clark control the ball versus playing off it, telling reporters in May that Clark's ability to score from above the break on three-pointers is elite, and that the coaching